This game is good, you cowards! What's key when talking about Final Fantasy VII and its remake is parsing everyone's biases. You see, every single person coming in to review this game will have some sort of bias that you need to understand, whether they tell you directly or not. That being said, I'll tell you mine. I'm currently 19 years old, so I completely missed out on the original's release and the general hype around it as I was not born yet. That being said, I come into this review playing through the original on the Switch, about halfway through. This was an attempt by myself to get some sort of idea of how to compare these two games and to attain the knowledge that I personally wanted to acquire. I wanted to at least appeal slightly to the viewpoint that some may have, where you may disregard someone's opinion on the remake just because they haven't played the original. I wanted to nullify that sort of thought. I did this because I wanted to at least appeal to the point of view, which basically thinks that anyone who hasn't played the original's opinion doesn't matter. I want these people to know that I played through the original. Yes, I didn't finish it. However, I already knew original FF7's plot before going into playing the game and already knew the big twist, just because of how big the game was already. In terms of my relationship with Square itself though, I have been a huge fan of the Kingdom Hearts series ever since I was super young, and Final Fantasy was something that narrowly eluded me for the most part. I'm generally someone who errs more on the side of optimism with Square and their future, based on the release of some real bangers, at least these last 2 years, with KH3, its DLC, Remind, and now with the remake. All of this is just to summarize that I'm relatively familiar with the recent history of Square and what they've been releasing, and by no means am I a complete newcomer. This is also to say that by no means am I a bootlicker, or by no means am I some die-hard veteran fan who will defend the game with his life. I want to present a more balanced viewpoint on the game. But to be quite honest, there's so many issues with reviewing this game, and they differ at so many points. It's almost like talking about politics. I honestly made a 4-axis chart of what I believe to be the various points of view on this game, and I will describe the relationships of how I think they all view each other. But in all honesty though, the only thing that really matters is the 4-axis chart for who you got on the golden saucer date. Also, I don't want anyone to misunderstand my points in this video. The way I described things, it's all for a reason. But the thing is that I personally have many gripes with both types of fan that I will describe. The BGE types and the M types, or the Rossius and the Kaminas. What I'm tired of, personally, is there being no real balance in the reviews of this game. It seems you either have M types or BGE types, and rarely any in between. The Rossius. This is what I'd call the BGE type. Someone who was dreading this game's release. Someone who, going in, had the preconceived notion the game was going to be bad. The hyper-analytical, overthinking Rossio types who care little about the overall experience and love to point out the small things or moments that just piss them off. The remake was, for them, a disaster, or train wreck. To these types of people, just because some of the smallest things weren't perfect or exactly like the original, they hate the game. The bad arguments from a BGE type are normally something along the lines of, you think New Thing Remake was good? You have bad opinion. Don't you know? Old good, new bad. Get with the memo or get the fuck out. How can you think game good when game wasn't true to original? How can you think game good when it had bad part? These types love to rail on things like Roche. They love to say things like Jannies. Wow. Everyone sure seems to love to repeat that Time Jannies meme because it was so funny the millionth time it's been said versus the first time. If I had to relate this type of fan with an FF7R character archetype / meme, I would say it would be Barrett, quote, "We need to go back to the island, Wallace."
Let's get a little more personal with this shot, shall we? Speaking of Barrett, gee, I love Barrett. He's just one of the greatest video game characters of all time. Barrett might honestly be one of the best characters in the remake. Probably the best, in all honesty. Just his message and the way it blends with the themes of Final Fantasy VII just makes something so perfect, and it relates so well to the current state of the world that we live in. Barrett's message and his themes are just such an important message right now, in 2020. When playing through the remake my first time, I took the stairs when going up the Shinra building, because I knew it was very funny and Barrett said some funny dialogue. But on my second run through, on hard mode, I took the elevator, and that was one of the best decisions of my life. Barrett said some of the most inspiring, personal dialogue I have ever heard come from a character. Some of Barrett's dialogue, when going up the elevator instead, is just some of the most based and red-pilled I've seen in video games. Barrett states, "A good man who serves a great evil is not without sin. He must recognize and accept his complicity. He must open his eyes to the truth that his corporate masters are profiting from the planet's pain. Only then can he redeem himself."
Barrett is just so based. Eco-terrorism, kinda based. The ideas and the ideology are both something that I think is very relevant now, in 2020, more than ever. Barrett's ideals for the planet, for the world really, are ideas that we should strive for and to stop raping our beloved Earth. This is an all-hands-on-deck situation. We need to reduce carbon emissions and the pillaging of our planet for our kids' futures. As humans, we need to adapt and find alternatives to unlock the future we are borrowing from our own species. In reality, however, if you have any sort of idea of the current events going on right now, I think this accurately represents the current world climate, American politics, etc. I genuinely don't give a shit about your personal political ideology. But generally, in a philosophical sense, can you concur with me? Or is it fair to say, I think otherwise good people can serve great evils, as Barrett states? I think that this is a more than fair point to argue. An otherwise good or reasonable person who supports Donald Trump still supports Donald Trump, even if he is proven a literal racist, rapist, idiot, misogynist, narcissistic, silver-spooned pig of a human being. It doesn't matter, so to speak. These supporters are inherently not without sin to a degree. They elected him into the office. However, what they must realize is their own position and understand their own complicity with electing him. Not only in this regard, but with the overbearing iron fist of capitalism and the big corporations that are constantly oppressing the average person and extracting all the excess value from our work. Don't get it twisted, this is no socialist propaganda. This is just the harsh reality and facts of the current systems we have put up and the reasons we have made progress as a society. People have had to suffer for us to progress. It's sad, and things should change, but it is just reality. These same corporations are also the same subset of people making things such as climate change get exponentially worse for all of us as a human race, just by the hands of a few people. They are literally, as Barrett states, profiting from the planet's pain. However, this is the path of what is possible to redeem someone like a Trump supporter, or someone who is just generally detached from the reality of the situation we find ourselves in. They are not inherently without sin. They must recognize and accept their complicity. They must open their eyes to truth, to reality, and only then can they redeem themselves and their reputation in the eyes of truly reasonable people. Once again, I'll reiterate, I don't care about your personal political views, because this is not just inherent to exclusively Trump supporters. I have friends who are Trump supporters, and it does not ruin what we built together. That aside, so, do you remember how I said earlier that there are generally two types of people who play this game? Well, the communas. Here's what I think they are. The communas. The M type. Someone who is super hyped and looking forward to this game's release. Someone who was genuinely excited and had a fairly open mind before FF7R's release. Commonly called corporate/Squeenix bootlickers by BGE types. Someone who doesn't sweat the small stuff and looked forward to enjoying the experience. The game was a masterpiece to them. They may not have liked the plot ghosts or Nomura-ing of FF7R, but they didn't let that one section ruin their experience of the game overall. The M-types tend to make really bad arguments towards BGE types, like, you criticize thing, yet you do thing, or you talk mad or bad about the game, yet you played it. You paid for the game. Gotcha! These types talk almost exclusively about how good the game was without providing good reasons. Masterpiece. Genre-defining. These people are not the sharpest tools in the shed. They tend to talk without saying anything. Almost no criticism is vented towards the remake, other than "ma plot ghosts" or "ending was confusing but cool." You fucking sheep. This plot, quote-unquote, this complex narrative, it's an absolute straight fucking line, no more complex than Kingdom Hearts, just with better and more relevant themes to our current time. If I had to relate this type of fan to an FF7R character or meme archetype, it would be Pure Instinct Wedge. Haha, his tummy needs pizza, lol.
Is that it's given us stuff to hypothesize about.
Yeah.
That, you know, if it was just straight up, we'd just be like, yeah, what kind of weapons are left? You know?
Like, yeah, we're gonna get up there and we're gonna kill. They're gonna kill her, and we're gonna go snowboarding.
Yeah, and so I love that it's given us this again. Basically, it's almost a truer remake in that it gives you more surprise and more wonder than a straight up 1-to-1 remake would have.
The most offensive, the one part of the game that actually made me yell at my TV screen, "Oh, fuck you," was Rufus Shinra's pants.
The pants! The design! The whole damn guy!
As soon as I saw those pants, I thought, there's the Nomura I know. That's my boy.
Although the combat was solid in FF7R, it seemed very uncomplex with the characters. It was very fun and cathartic, and it was slightly deep because of elements, lots of materia, the countering, and that sort of thing. The problem, and what I think they should do for the next installment, is take a fucking page out of KH2 for once, and give Cloud some combo modifiers, because god damn is it annoying to only have 2 combos basically the whole game. The combat, in terms of things like countering and blocking, is an absolute 10 out of 10. It is so fun and cathartic. Counter stance, operator blocking, Punisher countering, or just running away even. There's so many different ways and strategies to handle each fight. It's very fun. The materia itself, there's so many that it can let you just do so many different unique builds and gives you so many different tools to kill stuff with. Also, the assess materia is fucking based. Being able to see information on your enemies, such as their weaknesses, what moves they use, what elements they're weak to, etc., it's pretty good. Although I like those things about assess, I wouldn't mind them, once again, taking another page from Kingdom Hearts 2 and having something like scan to be active at all times. Sure, maybe it wouldn't be as true to the original per se, but I think that would just be useful, especially for newcomers to the series. Despite my praise thus far, I will admit there are some things that it gets knocked for. One thing I agree with by far is the sheer idiocy of how there isn't a jump button in this action RPG. Square. An action RPG with no jump button? Are you serious? Air combat is this automated joke of a system that frustratingly not only sucks, but if you're playing Cloud at least, requires you to be in operator mode. Also, your jumps are these weird automated attack things that don't even work most of the time. Hell, if the enemy moves even slightly, your jump attack is just gonna simply miss. It's so frustrating. You would think the remake's lead combat guy, who was the lead of Cage 2, would, think about these things some more. You think that they would maybe put in a jump button instead of this absolute fluke of an air combat system. What a joke. In all honesty though, thankfully, most battles are not in the air, so you don't have to worry about them. Or, alternatively, most air battles do have Barret who can shoot from range and doesn't have to do this insane jump. This insane automated jump thing that they have for everyone else. However, you won't have Barret for every battle, so don't get too attached to the idea that you can just switch to him every single time. While I'm still here, I gotta say this. The music in this game is an absolute 10 out of 10, for sure. They've faithfully recreated some of the old songs, and even have a few remixes that are so good, maybe even better than the originals in some cases. Notable songs for me personally include the Hell House theme, basically any of Sephiroth's themes, and FF7's original/world map theme. Also, I've noticed other people really love the Genova boss theme, not to mention, there's already so many really good FF7R PS4 backgrounds. Some of the music even has its own phases for their respective boss fights. How cool is that? There's very little middle ground per se, or sobering viewpoints. This is what I hope that this video provided to you. My thoughts on this game are, it's probably a mid to high 8 out of 10. Anyways, I liked this game, go fuck yourselves.
Rufus Shinra's pants.